This episode of the Golf Podcast is brought to you by 3Up Golf. Now, if you haven't heard us talk about them, and we've brought them up quite a bit, 3Up Golf is a small golf ball manufacturer up in Nashua, New Hampshire, and these guys are they're just making tremendous waves in the golf industry. I would say it's about 2 years ago now, 2 seasons ago, I made the switch over to their golf balls, and I've never looked back. And what's really nice is that they're a small business, and when you deal with them, Rob, who's the owner, actually most times when you call them or send them a message to their website, you're going to get Rob. And the customer service is another thing that's second to none. But just talking about the performance of these balls, the reason why I've never looked back, they're less than the price of the Pro V1, which is what I was playing previously. And in my opinion, they outperform them hands down, both distance off the tee and just the feel. And once I started playing with I personally play with the 3F12. Once I started playing with that, I just could not use another golf ball because the feel was so tremendous. I improved in putting, short game, and everything. So they have a couple different iterations. They have the 3F12, which is their 3-piece golf ball. That is going to be one of their highest performing ones that you're going to have. And if you're a mid to lower handicapper, that's definitely the ball for you. And then just last year, they released their 2S14, which is a 2-piece, very soft feel, especially for a 2-piece. I was very surprised by this 2-piece golf ball, and that just across the board, and any golfer is going to enjoy that. So I would say give them both a try and stick around later in the show because we're actually going to be giving away a bunch of the 2S14s. Being that they're so generous, Rob over at 3Up is extending a special coupon code for all the listeners of the Golf Podcast. Simply go on their website, place your order, and use the coupon code Golf Podcast, one word, Golf Podcast, and you'll get free shipping on all orders in the United States. And one more little kicker that I add in there, these guys give back because on every dozen golf balls that you purchase, they donate $3 to golf-related charities. And if you go on their website, you can check out some of the charities they've donated to in the past. So I'll link to that in the show notes so you can get to their website. Also, you can just go there directly by going to 3upgolf.com. So check them out. Welcome to episode number 64 of the Golf Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about an important topic for anybody who plays competitively, or even if you don't and you just want to kind of score better under pressure. We're going to talk about how to train to be clutch. This is a great topic that it's one of the most popular articles on Golficity for quite a while. We first published this back in August of 2012, and this came from a guest writer of ours, Joshua Metcalf. And I will include, you'll see his bio in the article that I'm going to link to, but he's the founder of Train to Be Clutch, and he does a lot of mental training programs. So we're going to jump into that. He's got a couple of really great takeaway, easy pointers that we're going to talk about for anybody, like I said, who's struggled in the clutch of really wanting to perform well. So Mike, how's everything on your end? Because I know we're looking at these things. It's April 1st tomorrow, and what's it doing? It's snowing outside right now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And in fact, you emailed me this morning, celebrating that you got the email from our local course that it's now open.
Yeah.
And then 3 hours later, it snows. So we might get pushed back a little bit, but I think it's around the corner. I'm probably going to get out there in the next week or so. I'm going to head over to the local course near here, Blue Hill, maybe get a nice round in. And it's always tough to play this time of year because, the greens aren't, manicured. But, the good feeling would be just kind of going through the motions. I mean, I'm not going to score well. The conditions are going to be tough. But I just want to start swinging. I want to get into the habit of playing kind of competitive golf and getting back the feel, that I once had, 6 months ago. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to get out there myself. I know what's really going to be giving me the itch is when the Masters comes on next week and looking at Augusta and then looking outside here.
Yeah, exactly.
The comparison's going to be tough, but I'm going to be out there as soon as I can too. And we played a lot of indoor simulator golf. One big thing that we're working on for the site, we're going to be doing an article on how you can build your own home golf simulator. So as soon as that comes out, we'll talk about it on the show. We'll link to it because a lot of people this season contacted us and said, how can I get some practice in at home? So guys are kind of patching some things together, doing some MacGyver tricks over there to get their own golf simulators. And I think this one's an exciting one because it could be fun to have something like that in your house.
It'd be great if you have the space for it and the money for it and the time for it. it could be a really cool, at home training facility that you can have. I mean, especially in our area, Frank, if I
Yeah.
had that, it'd be a phenomenal winter.
And space is the key, because surprisingly, we'll show you how to build these things for under $1,500, and with a couple different options, you can really make it like the professional simulators, and for $2,000, and you've got that going. So it's really excellent. So Mike, I know we've got some extra things we're going to do later on the show, so let's jump right into today's topic about training to be clutch. Now, one thing that we're going to talk about, and you've heard us talk about it a lot, is the importance of the mental game. Really, if you really want to think about it here, really that's the only difference when it comes to a pressure situation is the mental game, because the course doesn't know the pressure that's happening. Your body, only in it so much as it relates to your mental state, doesn't know what's happening. Your swing is the same. So what is it that changes in those pressure situations? And what it's going to come down to is your mental state, the extra pressure you're putting on yourself, those ways that your mind will overtake your fine motor control, and you're trying to like steer the ball or whatever you may be doing. But jumping right into our first point, and again, these come right from Joshua Metcalf, and I'm going to link to his article in the show notes. You can get to that by going to golficity.com/episode 64. But one great suggestion he has is, before every shot, you want to close your eyes and visualize the outcome. Okay. Now, we've talked about visualization before. We've talked about the importance of it. It may sound, especially if you're a newer golfer, it may sound corny of saying like, I got to stand there and visualize my shot each time, or you might find yourself even abbreviating that and just kind of rushing through it. But let me just give you a quick statistic to show you. And it was a quick kind of test that they did to show you how important this is. Recently, they had a study done at college level golfers. And what they did was they split the guys in half, and they tell you half the guys for 1 full week to, before every putt they made, they want to visualize that putt rolling into the cup. Then they told the other half of the guys they want to have every one of them visualize every putt just missing at the end. Well, amazingly, the guys who visualized making the putt, they improved their putting by 30% in 1 week. Now,
Wow.
just to show you how much of a sway it is, on the other side, the guys who visualized missing actually got worse statistically in their putting by 20%. That's a 50% swing in either direction because of that. Now, how amazing is that, Mike?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I've never heard these stats. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, the one main reason why I love this bullet point, Frank, is because you're not gonna close your eyes, visualize your shot, and then stick it 2 feet every time. It's not gonna happen. You're still gonna miss shots. You're still gonna do miss hits, but it may eliminate the sound you heard on the hole next to you where the guy yells, or the bad shot you had before. It may just put you in that mindset, or put you in that focus zone just for a split second, something that you don't do. And it's something that I've started to incorporate in my game over the past couple of years, of just kind of eliminating everything that just happened a minute or two before.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I don't close my eyes and do anything like that, but I'll just kind of visualize, where I want to put this ball. And, it has been very helpful.
Yeah. And that's one thing. You actually don't have to close your eyes to do this. I mean, visualization can be just something you're doing, mentally. And it's something I do as part of my pre-shot routine. If you need a way to remind yourself to do it, work it into your pre-shot routine. But it really is amazing how much the body will replicate what the mind has visualized for it. I mean, I kind of practice it. I try to even do it on the range of just practicing my visualization. It's a skill you can even get better at just in that regard. And I'll do it so much as saying, like, really trying to visualize the flight of the ball. I mean, they're talking about putting here, but I'll do it on the tee, and I'll try to visualize not just where the ball is going to end up, but what is the flight path going to take? Is it going to be a draw? What's that going to look like? And I am amazed how often what actually happens, when I take a swing, how closely it replicates that. So it's one of those things. In order to really get it, you're going to need to go out there and just try it. I encourage you to do that and just see. And if nothing else, what's the harm? Do this. Try this little test with yourself. Try visualizing, one thing, like every putt going in, and see if your putting gets better. And then if you're daring enough to possibly mess with your game, you can try visualize the opposite way, visualize missing, and see how it goes. And I got a feeling you're going to find similar results to what they had here. So definitely try that. Now, the next tip they have, and this comes a lot to do with the focus, like Mike's talking about, and this is every time you make a mistake, you want to immediately direct your focus to your next opportunity. We talk a lot about self-talk, like talking your way through it. Well, one thing that we see happen often, and we're talking here about training to be clutch. So one thing that happens often when people are in a pressure situation is that one bad shot compounds into another shot. So what you want to do, rather than thinking, okay, I just made a terrible shot, now I'm in a deficit, I've got to do this, that, and the other thing just to recoup that. I'm playing in my league, I'm in a tournament play, and this is going to be setting me back. I got to do that. Instead, just tell yourself, the next opportunity I get, I'm going to, and then fill in the blank with that, whatever the desired behavior is. By just beating yourself up with self-talk, it's going to increase that likelihood of future mistakes, that compounding effect that we're talking about. So here's one way you can kind of shift your focus. Like Mike was saying, the different ways you can get your focus back in order, and you're just kind of becoming your own coach out there. Don't forget with golf, you may be with a caddy or whatever it may be, but at most levels, it's just you out there. It's not like you're on a basketball team. You can call a quick timeout and your coach can tell you, here's what, a quick motivational talk to get you going. You got to be your own coach out there. You got to just find ways that you can kind of rework your thinking. All right. So that's a very important one. And then this next tip, Mike, this is personally one of my favorites. I try to work this as in addition to the visualization. Even before that, I work this into my pre-shot routine, but that's just making sure you're paying attention to your breathing before you step up to the ball. There's a couple reasons for this. Just the way, we're built as human beings, when we are faced with pressure, we tend to hold our breath. We tend to abbreviate our breath, shorten it. You could see this off the golf course. If there's any type of pressure, like at work or something, and you're not paying attention to your breathing. If you did pay attention to that, you'll notice that it's usually shorter breaths, or usually even during very difficult decisions, sometimes people will naturally hold their breath. And there's twofold problem with this when you're trying to perform, especially athletically. First, your muscles need oxygen to work. So if you're going to execute a good swing, you've got to be making sure you're taking those deep breaths. Secondly, while you're holding your breath, you're also naturally tensing up your body. Okay. And by tensing up, you're going to be a lot less flexible. You're going to have a lot less control over your swing, and you're going to have a problem there. So I'm going to tell you what I do is I stand behind the ball as part of my pre-shot routine, and I'll take at least 2-3 deep breaths. All right. At that time, I'm also trying to take a general inventory of my breathing. If I notice that I'm not, breathing deeply, I can kind of get an idea that my body is not just my mind, but my body is feeling the pressure. Also, I can also kind of get an idea of where I'm holding tension in my body. So I'll take those deep breaths, and then as I'm walking up to the ball, I'll do that. And I'll also kind of use it as a swing trigger by taking one last deep breath before I take a swing. And the amount of relaxation that causes is great. The other thing that it can really help do is slow down your overall tempo and pace. Because one thing that pretty much all of us do when we're faced with a pressure situation is that we kind of try to rush to get through it. It's like your mind just saying, I just want to get through this. Like, let's say it's a really bad hole. You end up abbreviating everything. Sometimes you skip your pre-shot routine. You just get up to the ball and just smack it just because you want to just get through it. And what happens there is that you end up making bigger mistakes and bigger mistakes. By telling yourself that I'm going to keep my breathing routine in there, you kind of force yourself to slow down. So, Mike, is that something that you've tried in the past, or what's your pre-shot routine kind of look like?
Well, I never actually thought about the breathing. It's interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's ways you can work on this off the course through meditation and yoga or whatever kind of workout, kind of focus on your breathing. I mean, in golf, I guess we can try doing this on the range or on the putting green. Maybe go there and practice one day and put yourself in a pressure situation. Like I always talk about, challenge yourself on the range, play a game on the range, do something that's going to force you to, I have to hit 7 out of 10 greens, or I'm not going to move on to my next practice, or I'm not going to get in the car and go home yet. Some type of pressure. It's not going to be as much pressure as being on the course, playing against friends, playing in competition, things like that. But, I guess I'm going to try creating that pressure situation during my practice routine and working on the breathing.
That's absolutely, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's not really mentioned in this article, but it is so true. There's almost no way to expect yourself to perform well in a pressure situation if it's not something that you're used to. I mean, anything with success in sports comes from being there, doing it, becoming a veteran, so to speak, in that regard. So if let's say you're just a casual, golfer, you're playing, on the weekends with your friends, no pressure, and you're playing, hitting the range every once in a while, and then a big tournament rolls around, a local tournament, and you want to be in it, you jump over there, you go to play, and then everything's come crashing down because it's the first time you're faced with pressure. Or let's say you're just out there playing with buddies, and then one day the guys come up and say, you know what, let's play, let's play for some money here, or something like that, or pray for some bragging rights, or whatever it may be. And all of a sudden the pressure's there and you don't know how to handle it. So what Mike is saying is exactly correct. Get used to the pressure by practicing it on the range first. And a great way to do this, or the range is one thing, or also the putting green. Create those situations, those games with yourself where there's some sort of pressure in the regards to you have to complete something. Like Mike said, let's say it's just pick a flag that's out there and just say, I've got to hit that, that green on the driving range 3 times in a row before I can move on to another target. And then you hit it twice in a row, and now you're feeling that pressure because if you miss, you got to start over. Same thing with putting. 5-foot putts. I'm going to make 5 in a row. You get 4 in, and you're thinking, I got to sink this so I can move on. So you're simulating that pressure, and that's where you can practice the things we're talking about here, that being the breathing and everything else. So it's really important. It's really important to try. And if you haven't done it, if you're one of those guys who just goes to the range and just hits a bucket of balls, I think you've heard about us talk about this before on the show. Try that. Try simulating some pressure. And now this is one thing that we haven't talked about before, but I really like the idea. Joshua suggests creating what he calls a what went well journal. He says after your practice session or after your round of golf, take a few minutes and remember what you did well, and then make sure to write down at least 3 things. What's good about this is it's a great way of directing your focus to the positives, and it helps you also keep track of your progress. Don't forget that. That's the other side of this too, because you're going to get better and better in the clutch the more you do these things and the more you experience it. So what's really great about this is like after just doing this, and there's another thing too, a lot of scientific studies say that when you write something down, and this is why a lot of people do that journaling or whatever it may be, when you write something down, it just sends more of a message to your brain that is important. There's a reason why you were logging this, so to speak. So try that. And after a month or 2, you'll start to literally see your brain being rewired for searching for positive things rather than always, a lot of us as golfers think about the negatives after the round. Oh, if I had just made that one putt, I would have broken 80 or whatever it may be. Instead, here we're thinking, well, I had a perfect draw with that 6-iron on the 12th hole. I sunk a putt because I read it perfectly on 15 or whatever it may be. You start to rewire your brain, and now you realize you're being a lot more positive out there. And Mike, I think this is something I might give a try, even if it's something as simple as just putting a little pen and paper and putting it in my bag and just jotting things down before I leave the course. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Pen and paper, you got an iPhone, use the notepad, anything like that. Just plug it in and I guess that could be really helpful. I've never taken notes like that. Never taken a journal. I've taken stats, greens hit. We've all done that, but I've never actually done the journal.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for it. Like I said, when you write something down, it just sends that signal to the brain. And you can even do this on practice round, not even practice rounds, but I mean at the practice range. Just kind of write down what went well, because we're no different on the range, really. It's a lot of people, I've done this myself. You may have hit a bunch of good shots on the range, but you go away thinking about that one that you couldn't hit. Maybe you were working on a high fade and you say, I just couldn't execute it. Well, instead, by going and writing down those couple things that you did well on the range, even if it's something away from, you can always find something good. So even if everything with your swing was wrong, but you can at least write down that I was disciplined enough to go through my pre-shot routine with each shot on the range. So you're telling yourself, I did something that is beneficial to my game. So I've done something that whatever, and it's going to change your mind. So definitely give these things a try. I think you're going to see some benefits, and you're going to see that you can become better and better in the clutch. And really, that's where it's going to start to separate you out from other golfers when it comes to anything having to do with competition. Because I guarantee you, the guys who aren't practicing this, the guys who aren't exposing themselves to this, are just not going to be able to handle it when the real pressure comes up. So definitely give that a try. All right, Mike, we've got a special treat here. We got a new segment that we're going to be bringing to the podcast, the lightning round. You want to jump in and tell us what that's about?
Sure. I want to, give our listeners the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you and I. And I've dug deep today, Frank, to ask you 5 questions. I'm going to put you on the spot, and you don't know these questions beforehand.
Right.
You have no idea. So this is, you really got to be on your toes here.
A little nervous.
Yeah, no, it's fine. They're very easy. They're very easy. There might be 1 or 2 you might have to dig deep and kind of think about. But yeah, no, with that said, I want to jump right into it. I'm going to fire them at you this episode, and then you can send them back to me next episode.
Yeah, and this version of the lightning round is going to be brought to you by our sponsor this week, 3UP Golf.
Nice. And by the way, Frank, 3UP golf balls is the balls you use to shoot your best score 77. So that's a pretty sweet thing.
Yeah, that is. That absolutely is. And like I said, I have not turned back, and I don't plan on it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So here we go, Frank. I'm going to fire these up. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. We'll start off easy. All right. Question number 1. You need to break 100. You can use any 2 clubs. What are you going with?
Okay, I can only use 2 clubs, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
For 18 holes?
18 holes.
I would say that I have to have my 7-iron, and I'm going to go with, I'm trying to decide between which wedge that I would have as the other one. Let's go with the pitching wedge, because I know that with my 7-iron, again, we talk about the short game being the most important thing. If I can put my 7-iron out 160 or so, and then I know on a par 4, I could probably hit 2 7-irons in. On a par 5, I can probably hit 2 7-irons and a pitching wedge.
And you're putting with your 7-iron.
Putting with my 7-iron, and right. I know that I can chip with both of those clubs. So if I can only use 2, those are going to be the 2.
Interesting. All right. That was close for me. I was thinking maybe 5-iron and wedge, but very, very good.
Immediately what comes to mind is that commercial we always see with the guy with the bag of all drivers, and he says, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, that's all you need, right? That's great. All right, great. So next question. You get to play Augusta National the Monday after the Masters, and you can ask any of the players in the field, any 3 players to fill your foursome, including legends that are walking the grounds that week. Who do you fill the foursome with?
Wow. Okay. This is a dream here, but I got to play with Arnold Palmer going, cause he's there each year, God willing. Mm-hmm. I would play with, let's see, I think I would pick 10. Now is Tiger healthy?
Let's assume Tiger's there.
Can Tiger swing a club?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay. I would play with Tiger, even though he's not at his best right now, just because kind of anybody of our generation grew up watching him. And I think even when his swing isn't there, and right now he's struggling, but just being somebody who had for a long time the mental game that he had and the dominance that he had, I would just like to see, even if there's a glimpse of it, even if it's just one shot, I'd like to be there, see it, whatever. And the other one is I'm just personally a big fan. I'd like to play with Ricky Fowler because I feel like we get some laughs.
Yeah. Interesting. Ricky, good choice there. All right. Excellent. Where would be your ideal guys golf trip? You're leaving tomorrow, bags are packed. You can go anywhere you want.
I'm just obsessed with the Caribbean. I like to be down there as much as possible. I know it's not the world's, most famous golf courses down there, but I tell you what, if I could play some nice courses, I'm just watching like things like the Puerto Rican Open, this season and stuff like that. And the views, the weather, a lot of places that are the golf courses that are world renowned. Don't forget, there's always that chance of having bad weather. If it's a once in a lifetime trip, you're like, I don't. Got to play it in the rain or whatever it may be. So of course, there's a lot of people may argue with me because there's some great places, Scotland and Pebble Beach and all these other places. But right now it could be also the winter talking, but I would love to get down there, play, 2 rounds in the morning and then, hit the beach for the rest of the day.
I love your answer. A buddy of mine just went out to California. He played Torrey Pines. He was fogged out after 7 holes. Mm-hmm. Spent about $350. Then he went over to Pebble Beach, and it was so much wind he couldn't even play. He spent about $500. So you nailed it right there.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So here we go. Best and most memorable golf shot you can remember pulling off, maybe last season, maybe in your career playing golf. What's that one that kind of sticks out?
Last season, I had one that there's so many things that stuck out about it. It may seem pretty simplistic. It was about 170 yards, and it was a perfect fade 6-iron that I hit the green with, where if I hadn't played that perfect fade, I would have, it was a high risk shot. I was in big trouble because I was along the tree line on the right. I had to fade it to hit the green. If I went any further right, I was in the woods on that side, and if it didn't fade, it was in the woods on the left side. And what made me feel the best about it is that prior to last season, I really couldn't play a fade to save my life. And I'm a natural draw, ball flight, and just the stuff we talk about here on the show so often. We talked about, I forget which episode it was, where we talked in depth about how to hit a fade, how to hit a draw, and just knowing that something that I spent a lot of time working on and being able to execute it, that really stands out in my mind.
Awesome. All right, Frank, last question. You're doing well. All right.
Good.
Now, you let's imagine that you are single, Frank, no wife and no baby.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
You get the phone call. You can caddy for any player on tour for 6 months. You won't get paid a dime for it, but you're going to get the greatest golf instruction of a lifetime from this person. Who would you choose and why? So basically, who would you want to learn the game from tee to green in that situation?
Okay, this one might sound a little bit crazy, but I'm almost going to go with Cooch.
Okay.
And the reason I want to say that is because he is so technically sound and so consistent and even tempered. I think there's a lot that I could learn from a golfer like that, because one thing for me that I keep coming back to that's been a problem for me is my consistency, where I last season, I got better and better and finally broke my personal best of 77. But then I also talked about a few shows back that I had a terrible round after that. We do the fantasy picks, each week, and you see those streaks when Cooch is in there because we talk about him as being Mr. Consistent. And honestly, I think if I could have anything that I would bring to my game, some guys would be like, I'd love to play with DJ and learn how to hit the long ball like he does. But to me, it's that what really makes me feel good about my round is that when I know that I'm going to play well each time and I can show up no matter what the conditions, no matter what's going on, and play well. And he's in the running every week. It's nothing flashy. There's nothing like that, so it's nothing that's going to stand out as too crazy, but just being able to see somebody who can, for, as you said, 6 months, just play so consistently, that'd be something that I'd like to do.
Well, congratulations. You made it through the lightning round. I like it. I mean, those were excellent answers, especially on the spot. And, last question for me, probably go with Fowler. I just think the two of us would have an awesome time together. That's it.
You guys might not make it through 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that's great. Yeah, there'll be GoPros everywhere too. With you, between you and him and the GoPros, you'd be everywhere. But I'll tell you what now, Mike, I'll be ready for you next episode.
You got it.
I'm going to have to brainstorm some questions for you. Come right back at you.
Excellent. I'm ready.
All right. So before we wrap things up, let's just talk really quick about an ongoing contest we're doing. We talked about 3UP. What Rob over there, who's the owner, was generous enough to donate a bunch of sample bags of his the new 2S14 golf balls. So we're going to be continuing to give those away. We've had a really great response to that. And the way you can do that is very simple. The way you can win those is simply by leaving us a review on iTunes. Now, this is going to be for our US listeners only, because again, we don't always get to see the reviews for other countries, unfortunately, but we will do a program for you guys sometime soon. But for anybody who's based in the US, all you got to do, leave a quick review for us on iTunes, tell us what you like about the show, and then email us at podcast@golficity.com. Let us know which review is yours. That way we can reach out to you directly and get your mailing address, and we're going to send you one of those sample packs. That's going to go to the first 3 people who leave reviews after this show goes live. Now, remember, you have to email us, though, because Apple does not let us know, and iTunes does not let us know who left the review. All we can see is your nickname, so we won't be able to contact you, and we won't be able to get your shipping address. So make sure you email us, let us know which review is yours, leave that quick review. You can do it from your iPhone or however you're listening to it, and then let us know what you like about the show, and we appreciate that feedback. Otherwise, as always, you can get in contact with us by emailing us at podcast@golficity.com. Those emails come both directly to myself and to Mike, and we get to see all of your feedback. We love seeing that. That's great. So keep that coming. You can also visit us on the web at golficity.com, and we will have all of everything we talked about today, the contest, the sponsor links. We're going to talk about the Train to Be Clutch article that we talked about today. All those will be in the links by going to golficity.com/episode 64. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out now, we've recently started simultaneously broadcasting the podcast on YouTube. So you can actually watch the show there by just checking us out on youtube.com/golficity. And we'll have links to that in the show notes as well. So follow our YouTube channel. And the great news about that is you'll be able to see the podcast episodes a couple days before they're released on iTunes, because they go live on YouTube right after we record. So definitely encourage you to check that out. All right, Mike, do you have anything else?
No, that's it. I'm just going to go pray now that the snow leaves so I can actually get out there, hopefully within a week,
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
I just can't wait to get out there and actually play. So, all right. So we will be back out there soon, and we'll let you know how that goes. In the meantime, again, check us out on the web at golficity.com, and we'll be back again with you next week.